That was started by these three guys, Joshua and Steven and Mitch, and
Cool.
and it was really funny. I mean, it was such a cool thing. I think it was last January.
Yeah.
So it's been around for about a year and a half, or whatever, year and a quarter. And I was just like on the couch watching football or whatever I was doing, and I got like a Facebook invite. You know how you get all those invites to those groups, and it was
Yeah.
like an invite to Fracassi Freaks. I was like, what is this? And yeah, these three guys had set
That's
it up,
great.
and they still run it, and they're doing a great job. And we all have become buddies over the last year or so, and it's a lot of fun. And I try and really engage with everyone in there, the readers, and I also do like exclusive book. I did an exclusive book last year that was only
Right.
offered in the group. So I try and do fun stuff to kind of keep it. It's not one of those groups where it's like I just want it to be a positive experience and to be a lot of fun for the folks who collect my books, and because some of my books are kind of hard to find. Um, and so it's interesting to see people get really into like hunting them down. And so yeah, anyway, but yes,
Mhm.
that's what the group is. It's a really cool thing.
Yeah, and it's got a lot of activity too, which is really nice. You get quite a
Yeah,
bit of good variety in there as well. It's not just everybody kind of piles on about your latest. It's pretty diverse. So I'm
yeah,
very new to it. So I just this week, because upon your suggestion, which I got the idea to, hey, why don't we? Because I know you've got such a huge following, and I didn't want to be selfish and take all the thunder from all the great questions. So I decided to invite some other people along for the ride as well to ask a couple of questions themselves.
cool.
And so I don't know if you've been paying attention. Probably not. 'Cause you've been busy writing, which, by the way, that's a good thing. Keep doing that.
Yeah, yeah,
But we did get a couple of great questions in particular that I wanted to post to you if I can.
yeah.
That
Please.
were they're asked from some of the members of Fracassi Freaks. So I'm just going to pull them up here. So the one question that I have, first question I should say, and I'm hoping I get the name correctly. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong here, Philip. But it's uh, Emilian Gilovsky. I hope I am pronouncing that correctly. And
Could
by the
be.
way,
I've never actually. I don't think I've ever actually heard her pronounce his name, but I think I
okay,
always pronounce it Emilion, and I don't know if that's right or not. But yeah, he's
Emilion. Yeah, that's kind of how
my
I pronounce it in my
my
head.
one of my friends in Australia. Yeah.
Oh, cool. The first one here is from Emilian Gikoski. And Emilian asks, I heard recently from another author, parentheses, I think it was Eric LaRocca, another great writer, shout out to Eric, uh, who said that finishing a book and then releasing it into the world was like losing something dear to them. Philip, what is the feeling that you get when you publish a book?
Yeah, not that. I'm surprised Eric says that. I don't have to hear the context, but
Yeah.
no, it's not it's almost the opposite of that. I don't feel like I'm losing anything. I feel like I'm gaining everything. I mean, I only write so that people can read what I write. So for me, the birthing of the book is the best part. And and the one thing I have said in the past, and I think I still agree with myself on this, is what I will say that once the book is published, it's no longer my story necessarily. Now it's everybody's
Sure.
story, and I think you have to sort of. It sounds sort of pat to say that, but the reality is, everyone has a subjective take on books or music or a painting, or everyone has it's called art. So I think
Right.
with fiction, everyone sort of experiences it a different way. um, the story that I wrote will not be experienced the way that I experienced it. It'll be experienced hopefully a million different ways, but
Yeah.
at least a few hundred different ways, if nothing else.
Mhm.
So yeah, so I always think of it as basically, okay, this is now all of our story, might be a better way to put it. Um, and so for me, it's really it feels very narrow when I'm working on it, and then it feels very broad once it's out there. It feels like the story is kind of like a virus. It's kind of it's fungused out all across the world, and people are doing their own things with it, and they're talking about adapting it into film and TV, and people are writing about it on their blogs, and they're reviewing it on Goodreads. So I love. I mean, for me, it's a manifestation. But so that's how I feel about a story. I love getting a story off my desk and into the world. It is my favorite thing. My favorite part of this job is that moment when the book is out there.
Very cool. And then, of course, on to the next one.
Right, and then I move on to the next one. Yeah.
Cool. And speaking of the next one, we have our second question here. This one is from Daniel Pyle. And Daniel asks, are there particular scenes from your books that randomly pop back into your head long after you finish writing them? And if so, what do you think it is about them that makes them so persistent? Great question.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a tough question to answer. For the most part, once I finish a book, I kind of don't really think. It sounds awful. I kind of don't really think about it anymore because
Yeah.
I'm really, for me, when I am writing when I'm writing a book, for example, a novel, for example, or even a story, it's all consuming for me. So even when I'm not at my desk physically writing, I'm thinking about it. I'm
Right.
working over a scene in my head. When I'm laying in bed falling asleep at night, I'm thinking about a scene that I can't quite, get, or whatever. I don't feel is quite there. When I wake up in the morning, I'm thinking about the book. When I'm eating my lunch, I'm thinking about the book. So I'm always pretty much all in 24/7 on whatever I'm working on at that time.
Okay.
Because so much of the writing, quote unquote, takes place in my head versus on the keyboard. The keyboard is just a conduit to get it out of my head and onto the hard drive. So
Yep.
it's the keyboard is not writing. It's all mental, obviously. So which again sounds kind of obvious, but meaning I'm always writing even when I'm not writing, as it were. So so if I don't like to split my brain in that way. I can read 15 books alternating at the same time with no problem. But when I'm writing, it's really one project at a time. I've been in a situation last year actually where I was so busy that I had to kind of focus on one project or two projects sort of simultaneously, and it really strained. It was an incredible strain for me, and it was very anxiety inducing, and because it was just so much to think about, and I just didn't feel like I was fully committed to either one. So
Many layers.
yeah, and so I don't really feel. I mean, I think obviously there's little things that pop up in my head about some scenes that I've written here and there, but no, I'm pretty much on to whatever I'm working on now or whatever's coming next. I don't really ruminate a lot about the books I've written.